Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guest tonight, he's a voice actor, Larry Kenney. How's it going?
Hey, good, Robin. How are you, man?
Hey,
hi, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming on out of your busy schedule.
Oh, well, you know, I'm not that busy anymore. Thank you.
So what have you been up to lately?
Well, just today, about 2 hours ago, I found out that I'm going to be on. I want to roll on a new Pokemon that's being produced, Pokemon series, animated series, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm still doing. I still do things on Teen Titans Go. I'm still doing Skittles, you know, the candy.
Oh, nice
commercial. You know the commercial at the end where the guy says, "Feel the rainbow, taste the rainbow." That's me. That's
you, the Skill guys that say "Taste the Rainbow"?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for about 25 years or so. For 40 years, I was voice of Count Chocula cereal and Cocoa Puffs. You know, Sonny the Cuckoo Bird. Up here, I will go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yahoo!
Hey, can you do your Count Chocula?
Count Chocula cereal is coming your way. How about a breakfast today?
All right. So, how'd you become part of Rankin Bass, and then how'd you get the role of Lionel on the Thundercats?
Audition for it. Like in our business, everything you have to audition for it, you know. And that's what happened. Back in about 83 or 4, my agent called and said, Tuesday at 2 or whatever, you've got an audition at such and such a place for a new animated series called Thundercats. That's going to be recorded in New York, which we all here in New York, we thought, wow, about time. Because up until then, everything was recorded, all animated stuff was recorded in LA. Some of it in Florida, you know, Disney. But this is a whole new thing. So I went and auditioned for it, and fortunately I got to Lionel and Jackalman, one of the mutants. And well, we all did. There were only 5 of us cast. Did 130 episodes. So you can imagine how many voices we did over those years. Probably 100 voices, you know. So that's how I got involved with Rankin Bass. And when I was growing up, I remember watching Rankin Bass holiday specials, animated holidays, you know. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with Fred Astaire and Frosty the Snowman with Earl High. So when I was excited just to audition for this because of the company, and when I got the job, I was really happy, you know. You know, that's how but audition. That's how you get most of the job in our business.
So since you voiced Lionel and Jackalman, so when you recorded the voices for those characters, how did you do it? Did you talk in both voices at the same time in real time before you recorded it?
That's the way I did it. Actors do it different ways. Some actors like to, I think what you're talking about, if there's a scene between one of my characters and another my characters talking to each other, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of actors, most actors I prefer to record all of the lines of one character and then all of the lines of the other character. Well, I like to make it easier on the engineers, the editors. I'd always say, let me do it real time. I call real time. Like if Lionel was talking with Jackalman, you know, it'd be something like, Jackalman, you're up to no good. Yes, well, what are you going to do about it, Lionel? You don't see what to do about it. Yes, so I always did mine just like that, back and forth, and I liked it better the whole time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So when the Thundercats toys came out, did you collect them?
No, I didn't. I did not. Boy, I wish I had. I wish I had a bunch of those action figures, you know. And I do have a couple of action. I have a Lionel and a Jackalman, the original action figures. Those are pretty worth a lot of money now, I guess, the original one. And I do have a Thundercats lunchbox. You know,
wow.
because somebody gave that to me at a Comic-Con. Right? And I do have, I think, 2 animation cells. If you're old enough to remember what those are.
Oh, I definitely do know what animation cells are. I mean, I've seen a lot of them from Disney to DC Comics, all that great stuff. Some of those cells are pretty nice, but some of them are like a big hefty price.
Couple $1,000. Yeah. Well, I remember when we the last few recording sessions that we had of not only Thundercats but then Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks and all the rank stuff we did. They would bring, the producers would bring boxes of animation cells. And they would say, guys, take whatever you want because they're going to get thrown away anyway. I mean, what are you going to do with animation cells? 50 years from now, who's going to want these things? Well, they do. People want them real bad. So I have, I think, 1 Lion-O and 1 Jack animation cell left. But I didn't. I never was a collector as a kid. And collecting is such a big thing now. I mean, my God. Not only in animation and film, but people collect everything. Sports jerseys and stuff like that. And so I never was a big collector when I was a kid. But like I said, I do have those 2 things. I did have more. I had for years. I did keep a few more cells and some figures and stuff. But over the years, I gave them to my kids, my grandkids, and the friends, who would come over. And then in lieu of a gift, I would give them that. And I'm trying to find those people now and get them back.
So what do you think about Super 7 coming out with the Thundercat figures? These are real nice. They're more authentic, like the animated series.
Yeah.
Did you ever think about getting any of those?
Well, I'll get some of those. Yeah. In fact, I'm doing a I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm doing a signing for Super 7 in the next Comic-Cons I'm going to. That's where they come there with like maybe 100 of them of each carrying on, and then over the course of a weekend, I sit in my hotel room and sign them all, and then they can sell them at signed collectors. So yeah, I've seen them. They look fantastic. The most incredible thing to me is the new Thunder Tank. It's like about almost the size of a real tank. It's incredible. It's like, what is it, 4 feet long and 2 feet wide?
Yeah, actually, I have that with the Panthro figure because Panthro is my favorite Thundercat. And I have the original Panthro 80s figure and the Thunder Tank from the 80s. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw this big bad boy, I was like, my jaw just dropped. I go, I must have this. Since I got the Panthro figure, I have to have the big Thunder Tank, man.
Sure. You got to get it. I've signed several of those already, too.
Oh, really? What was your thoughts when you first saw your Super 7 Thunder Tank for the first time when a fan came up to ask you to sign that?
Well, I had actually seen it on Facebook before I saw it. You know, people like to do these videos with the unboxing thing. And I thought when I saw the first video, I thought, that looks pretty big. And then when the first person that came over who had one at the Comic-Con, the box was like, huge. And I figured, well, there's probably packing material in there, or whatever. And it'll be about half that big, but it's enormous and so detailed. It's incredible. Sometimes I when people bring me all these things to sign, I really wish that I had been a collector when I was a kid. It's kind of hard to start when you're at a certain age because all the good stuff's gone. Not really, but I see the pleasure people get out of collecting and trading and selling and all that, And of course, it makes me feel fantastic when people come up and ask me something for them. I enjoy that.
That's pretty cool. And also, you were also some of the voices for the reboot Thundercats animated series as well.
The which one now? I'm sorry.
The reboot of the Thundercats
In 2011.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I played Lion-O's father, Claudius, and Will Friedle played Lion-O. Yeah.
So how much fun did you have doing that with Will Friedle?
Well, here's the thing. We never worked together. You see, back in the 80s, when we were recording Thundercats and Silverhawks and all the other ones, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
We would always be together in a room. There were only 5 of us in the cast.
Yeah.
And 1 or 2 were added second season. But it was just the 5 of us. And we did all the voices in 130 episodes each series. So we each had to do, well, figure out the math, you know, a lot of voices. And now I've forgotten your actual question. What was it about doing the voice?
No, I was just I was asking if you were having fun with Will on Thundercats. Oh. You never met him, but did you finally meet him when you guys weren't doing the series? Did you guys ever finally meet?
I've never met Will. I did meet at a Comic-Con in San Francisco. I met Matthew, the guy who played Tigra, I think.
Okay.
Gosh, I'm sorry, I can't remember his last name. And the lady who played Chitara was Emmanuelle Chiric. I wonder why I remember her name and not his. Oh, Matthew Mercer.
Okay.
So I met those two because they happened to be at the San Francisco Comic-Con in 2012 or 2011, I think it was. But I still haven't met Will Friedle. But I tell you something, I sent him an email. Somebody gave me his email address after the show started on the air, and I just told him what a great job I thought he was doing and all that. Oh, I'm sorry, it was the other way around. I got an email from him.
Okay.
It said, and I don't think he would mind if I share this with you because I think it's so sweet. He said, "Mr. Kenney, my name is Will Friedle, and I'm playing Lion on the new Thundercats. And I just wanted to let you know that I only hope that I do as good a job as you did, and you were one of my heroes and all this." And I thought it was so nice of him to write back and say that, you know. So I wrote him back and forth, and I said, "Go for it, kid. You know, you're doing a great job, and I'm proud." But I haven't met him yet.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, your wife is a big horror fan, and at first you weren't really big into it. So what was the first horror film your wife got you into the world of horror?
Well, the first one she tried to get me into was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I just sat there in the theater and roared. You kidding me? It's like that commercial that's been on the last few years where the young kid, the young teenagers are out somewhere in a scary atmosphere, and this guy with a chainsaw. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
they run into the shed because they're trying to run someone, and then you see the chainsaw killer, and he has his mask off, and he's just sitting there going, well, he's like shaking his head. He goes like this, easy prey.
Yeah. So that was the first one. And this is, we've been married for 41 years now. And that was way back then. But like I said, the ones recently that come out, a lot of them have been really very good. And I don't laugh at them anymore. There's some of them I don't think are scary, but it's just me. You know, even as a kid, I never got scared by any of those things, you know. I'm a tough guy.
Well, you sound like you're a tough guy.
That's with me, man.
So, from Thundercats, we were talking about earlier, you went over to Silverhawks and you voiced Bluegrass. How much fun did you have playing Bluegrass? Because I can tell all the episodes you did, you can tell from your heart and soul that you were really enjoying Bluegrass.
Yeah, people have said that to me. You know, we can tell that you were having a good time. Because Bluegrass is that kind of character that, well, first of all, he's Southern. You know, he's got this, hey, kid, how you doing? You know, watch this. Teaching the copper kid out of, you know, the facts of life and stuff like that. And he was a little bit of a smartass. I liked that. A little, not nasty, but just, oh, yeah, you think so? Watch it. And I really enjoyed doing that. Maybe that's where you got the idea that I played guitar.
Yeah, that's where that's just asking you. Maybe because sometimes there's some artists, who are voice actors and they'll play a certain character, but they also kind of had a little extra twist to it. If the character's playing, they're really legit playing it. That's why I was asking you if you were a bass player.
No, but good thinking. But you're wrong.
Hey,
I wish I could play an instrument. I actually, when I was young, like 7 years old, I took a couple of years of accordion lessons. You know what an accordion is?
Of course I do.
Well, a lot of people today don't know what an accordion is. Anyway, I took a couple of years on that, and I enjoyed it. But I just, looking back, I wish I had spent the time to learn, the piano or the guitar. I'd love to be, not necessarily just I'm not going to go out and join a band and perform, but just. Well, my dad said this to me when he took me to sign me up for music lessons. He didn't necessarily take me to sign up for accordion, but we went to a place where they taught and they had them all lined up in a semicircle, full circle, and you would walk around and find something that looked like you wanted to play it. Well, I thought about a horn, I thought about guitar and stuff, and then when we came past the accordion section, they had all these great looking accordion with gold gilding on them, with people's names. And at that time, if you think about it, this was 1955, 56. Lawrence Welk was one of the biggest shows on television. He played accordion. So I started playing that. And I think also because two of my cousins were taking accordion lessons. But I look back now and I kind of wish I had taken guitar. I did, back in the 70s, I went in Cleveland. I was working in Cleveland, Ohio, on the radio. I was a disc jockey for many, many years. And I went to a concert by Andrei Segovia, famous classical guitar player. Played the 12-string classical guitar. The next day, I went out and bought myself a guitar, an acoustic guitar. It wasn't a 12-string. Those were... You have to be a genius to play them. But I bought a guitar and started learning how to play it. But I'm so lazy that I'll give it a try for a while. But if after a couple of weeks I'm not the greatest guitar player that ever lived, I'm done with it. I give up on it. Like a lot of kids do that, I think.
Yeah.
I wish I had stuck with it.
You also have a daughter that is a talented musician. Tell me a little bit about that.
Carrie, her name is Carrie Kenney Silver. She's basically an actress. You would know her if you saw her face. She's, Reno 911?
Yeah, was she one of the main cast members on Reno 911?
Yeah, she's Trudy Weigel, the crazy one with the short black hair.
Yeah, I know who that is. I didn't know that was your daughter. She did her role was she did a solid performance on that. I thought she was very funny on it. Didn't she also play in the state too?
She was when she was in college at NYU, New York University. When they were freshmen, there was an existing comedy troupe called The Group. Well, they all graduated, and so they needed a new group. And that's exactly what they named them, the New Group. And all through college, they performed in New York at various venues and stuff. And as soon as they graduated, MTV hired them to do a show called You Wrote It, You Watch It, with John, who's the guy from... I'm 112, You Wrote It, You Watch It. John Stewart.
Yeah, John Stewart, yeah.
He was like the narrator or whatever. And people would write scripts for comedy bits, send it to him, and they would perform them. Just the way people had written them, And then immediately after that, they realized these kids were better than that, so they gave them their own show called The State. They called the group became The State. And that did very well. And then Carrie started doing movies. She's done so many TV shows and movies, and she's doing so well. And I'm so proud of her. And the funny thing is, the State consisted of one woman, that was Carrie, and 10 guys. She was the only woman in the group. And to this day, they graduated in 94, 96. And to this day, whenever you see one of them in a movie, you usually see 4 or 5 of the other ones. They still stay together, and they're still, friends, and they still perform together. Well, in Reno 911, Tom Lennon was one of those guys from the State, and in movies he's done like Role Models, and it's so funny. It's funny, when she started out, when she left New York and went to Hollywood, we would get a call from her, Dad, I got a part in this movie, this TV show. I'm going to be on it, Now people come up to me on the street and say, hey, I saw your daughter in that new show. And I go, really? What is it? Because she doesn't call us anymore to say, hey, be sure and watch for me, She's doing great.
So when your kids were growing up, what did they think about their dad being Lionel from the Thundercats?
Meant nothing to them. I mean, if you ask almost any actor, who does what I do, cartoon, whatever it is, the kids are not impressed. Your kids, you're not a star to your kids. In fact, I remember several times when I say something and they doing a character voice or something, and they say, Dad. When my kids were little, I used to love to read to them.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, if I were reading something, fairy tale or something, and I would say, and the evil witch said, well, I'm going to get you. And the kids would go, Dad, knock off the voices. Read the story. I would always go, you little shit, you only knew.
It's
where
like
your clothes are coming from.
it's like, come on, man, I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
Being a voice.
Now, I must say, though, that now they're very proud of me. Of course they are. They brag on me and stuff like that to impress their friends. But they weren't impressed at the time.
So you started off as a radio disc jockey. So what got you into voice acting? How did you come up with the different voices? Did you always do that, like growing up, poking fun at certain people or making up voices?
Yeah, always. In fact, my mother told me that she used to tell me that from the time I could talk, I was copying cartoon voices from TV and doing impressions of politicians and stuff like that from a little kid. And I kept doing that, especially after I got into school and realized that the chicks love that. You make the girls laugh, you do all right. And so I kept it up. And then when I became a disc jockey, I would use character voices in comedy bits on my radio show, or to introduce my show. I'd go, something like, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Larry Kenney as Nixon or something. So I continued to do it. And then once I got to New York in radio, I started getting calls from agents and advertisers and things like that. Say, hey, we want to use you on some commercials, doing some of your voices. And I started doing that, and within a few years, I learned that you make a lot more money and have more fun if you do commercials and things like that, and not sit in the studio for 4 hours playing records. So then I switched over to doing just that, just the commercials and cartoon. Well, then the cartoon shows came along, So it's just, I've been the luckiest guy in the world, man. I mean, it all just came together for me, And I really mean that. I feel like I'm so lucky. So.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are so lucky because you were around during when cartoons were good in the 80s and early 90s. That's when cartoons were good. So you were in the right era to be able to voice a lot of these famous characters. So you can be kind of like an 80s voice character icon.
Yeah, it turns out that way.
I was also reading up on you about you were at Toys R Us. You had a little Toys R Us story. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I think I know the one you mean. When we started doing Thundercats, and when we started recording it in about late '83 or early '84. By the time it got on the air, it was 9, 10 months later, because you have to record.
Yeah.
13 of them, and then they have to of course animate them, and it takes a long time. So I remember the show came on the air, and we were all excited, of course. Oh, gee whiz. Is it gonna? We all knew we had a great product. We knew the writing was great on it. We felt we were good. The actors and the music was incredible. And we had all grown up watching cartoons, of course. I mean, occasionally during lunch or whatever, we'd talk about. I think this show's got a chance. It's just got a chance. But the thing about it in this business is you could have the best material in the world, the best writers and actors and things like that. But there's so many other factors that need to come into place before you've got a good show or even a decently popular show. The network who buys it may not run it at a good time. They may put it on midnight, they may not promote it very well. We had that problem for a while too. But anyway, when I really first realized how big it was, I went to Toys R Us. Rest in peace.
I know, right?
I miss them, don't you?
Oh, I do too, because that was my kid. That was my time to go, because I was a huge Star Wars collector. So every week I would do my chores, and then my mom and dad would take me to Toys R Us, and I got to pick out like 2 action figures with my allowance. And Toys R Us was just like a toy heaven for kids, and it's a shame now. Toys R Us is gone, and I think this generation doesn't even know what Toys R Us is.
I know. Well, I walked in there one day, 2 weeks before Christmas. Well, let's say 87, something like that. And I hadn't been to Toys R Us for some time, but the previous time that I had been there, I noticed there an aisle of Thunder stuff, both sides, action figures. And, of course, I thought, wow, that's so great, And then they had Ninja Turtles, another aisle, and then the He-Man, And then this particular time I'm talking about now, I walk in there, and there's like 4 Thundercats stuff. And I went, oh, man, this show is a hit, But I think the part of that story that you like best is I started walking down one of the aisles. There are these 2 young guys, probably 7 to 9 years old, target audience. And I heard them at the action, looking at the action figure. And one kid says, I'm going to get Panthro. He's cool. I'm going to get Panthro. The other guy said, yeah, well, I'm going to get Tigra because I like Tigra the best. Well, I couldn't help it. I kind of leaned over and said, hey, guys, why don't you get Lion-O? He's the one that goes, Sword of Omens, come to my hand. And they looked at me like I was nuts. Like I think they was right as a predator. And I wouldn't blame them. And so I just kind of sheepishly started walking away. And I heard one of them say, he doesn't even stop Lion-O.
Oh, he said, so the one kid didn't believe it. He's like, that's not Lion-O.
Well, I knew they would know I wasn't the played the part, but it just didn't. Yeah. He said, hey, he doesn't even sound like Lion-O. I thought, oh, you, or if you grab your pants if you knew who you just said that to.
Hey, if that was me and I heard your voice, because I watched the Thundercats when I was a kid too, if I heard that, it'd be like, what? No, that can't be. And I'd be like looking around going, no.
Yeah. I've always hoped that at some point somebody would come up to me like at a Comic-Con, or somewhere and say, do you remember when I was that kid? But it hasn't happened yet.
Wouldn't that be cool if that really happened? And what would you do if that kid came up and like, hey, you're that guy that was talking like a Lion-O?
Yeah.
Would your jaw like just drop? You'd be like,
yeah, and I would have bought him whatever he wanted in the store.
you'd be like, what do you want? You want a free autograph? You want a Lino figure or what?
I just love to meet them now. They're probably 40-some years old.
Yeah. So when you started doing like Comic Cons, when you did your very first comic convention, what was it like for you to really meet like the fans in person? What was going through your head, and what decided you to, do a convention?
My son talked me into it. My son, Tanner Kenney. This is, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I guess now. And I had never heard of him. My son came up and he said, Dad, you got to start doing Comic Cons. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, well, you go there and people come in, they pay to get in, and then they pay for your autograph. I said, no, I'm not doing it, because ever since Thundercats was on the air, and to this day, I send out, if you write to me, I probably shouldn't say this, I'll get thousands of them. If somebody writes to me, I will send them an autograph picture. If they send a self-addressed stamped envelope, or whatever, I will send them a print, a Lino print, autographed, and I still do that. I've done that since the 80s, and I don't charge anything. I pay for the postage myself. I did for years, up until about a year ago. At least my son said, at least start having them send you a self-addressed. I just love it. I love the idea that people, all over the world, you wouldn't believe some of the requests I get from Sri Lanka and places like that. Which reminds me, years and years ago, I used to get residual checks, from whenever they played. I still do. But the first one I got from Sri Lanka, from it being played in Sri Lanka, was a check for $2.40, because they had played one episode one time on the Sri Lankan TV, and they paid me $2.40.
You can watch the Thundercats on Tubi. Yeah, because they got all the cool, afternoon cartoons and Saturday morning cartoons, and I like going through there and just watching them. And I mean, I own the whole Thundercats complete series anyway, but I also like to watch if there's like an episode on TV, because it bring back memories of me, rushing home from school after 3:00 to catch Thundercats, and of course, Voltron and G.I. Joe, all those fun cartoons.
Yeah, you can see them. I guess Thundercats is on YouTube. All the episodes are on YouTube, and maybe Hulu or Roku, one of those streaming services. So it's still around.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of Super 7 figures, you should get yourself a Bluegrass figure. They came out with the Silverhawks Bluegrass figure. It looks sweet.
I saw that. Yeah, I'm going to get one of those. I saw that. And the Lino things, now they have so many different versions of the Lino action figure. There's one that just came out last year that's they're based on individual episodes usually. There's one where the action figure is all blue. Yeah. Because he's frozen. Yeah. But if you put him out in the sun, he turns back to. Did you know that? If you put that out in the sun. No. Yeah, it goes back to the original colors, and then you put it in the freezer, and it'll get blue again.
I got one more question for you. Whoever voiced Snarf, that voice, I mean, when I was a little kid, I thought that was the most annoying voice ever. It reminded me of, like, later on, Jar Jar Binks. I was like, gosh, Snarf, he was annoying. Won't they just kill him off?
Well, they did in the 2012, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was... it's always been that people either love or hate. And most people hate him. He was annoying. He was played by Bob McFadden. Okay. Who I worked with for years and years on the cereal commercial. He played Frankenman. Okay. When I was doing Chocula and Sonny the CooCoo. So we worked together for years and years. Yeah, he's passed away. He's a great actor.
I bet he was. I've heard of him too, so he probably was. I mean, it's a shame because all the actors, I grew up watching, from like pro wrestlers to voice actors to all these actors, they're either passing away or you see them, they're a lot older, and you're like, no, they can't get old because you were a little kid and they were so young.
I know what you mean. Yeah. Well, the ravages of time,
Yeah, the ravages of time.
Yeah.
So can you give me a Thundercats the whole speech?
The whole speech?
Yeah, Sword of Omens, can we be on site?
Oh, sure. And we'll end on that note, yeah?
Yes.
Ready to end the interview? Okay.
Yes.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight. I, Lionel, commend. Thunder, 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 Thundercats. Ho!
All right, that's a great ending. So where can everybody find you on social media to see what you're doing next?
Facebook, Instagram, and I have all the Comic-Cons that I have coming up listed there, Sometimes I'll post clips from the old shows and things like that. And I like it. I like being able to interact with the fan.
That's pretty fun. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, last week we were supposed to do this.
Yes.
And had a little thing. Everybody's fine.
Well, that's good, because I was going to ask you that. And like I said, no worries. Things in life happens, so I wasn't really worried about that. And what I was taught growing up, family always comes first. You take care of your family, and then after that, you can go out and play.
You're my man.
No, you're my man.
No.
And everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight.